All right, hello everybody. My name is David Gray, and I will be taking you for your online practical sessions. Obviously, due to the pandemic, we can't have you coming into the college. It'd be a health and safety risk. So instead, what I will be doing is I will be creating these videos, uploading them onto the virtual learning environment, your VLE, and then you can watch them, and associated with that, there will be a task that goes alongside the video. And that way we can make sure that we are still getting our practical videos, we are still getting our knowledge and skills, and we are still meeting the syllabus criteria that we need to meet for you to gain your qualification. Okay, so that again, my name is David Gray. For those of you that have a pen ready or are on your laptop or a computer or anything, my email is capital D, capital G, 05269 at eastdurham.ac.uk. Again, capital D, capital G, 05269 at eastdurham.ac.uk. And if you have any questions about any of the practical videos, anything about the animals here on the unit, or you just need a hand with any of your theory and you can't get a hold of Rachel because she's busy, you can always get in contact with me as well, and I can help out as best I can. Okay, so today the session's going to be split into two different areas. First off, I want to introduce you to the unit so you can have a look around, you can see how it's set up. And secondly, we're going to be following on from what Rachel has taught you in the classification systems. Now, before we do that, I think it's really important that we do take you around and show you the animals in the unit, because the unit itself is split into different areas. And you'll see what I mean when we get down there. Okay, but we have some learning outcomes that we need to meet, and I'll go through those now with you. So the first learning outcome is know the 7 groups of classification. Now, I know this is stuff Rachel's gone over with you as well. What I'll be doing is I will be reinforcing anything that she teaches you in theory here on the unit. Okay, so the first learning outcome, know the 7 groups of classification. The second learning outcome, know how to use the hierarchy of taxa system, which is the Linnaean classification. Okay, again, something that you will have gone over with Rachel. The third one is to know the different groups of animals we have here at EDC, so East Durham College. So like I said, we're going to walk around the unit. I'm going to introduce you to the different areas, show you some of the animals, and you can see how we've classified our different rooms with our different animals. Okay. And last but not least, know what binomial nomenclature is, all right? And I know it's quite a hard word to say. Again, Rachel will have gone over it with you already. So know what binomial nomenclature is. Okay, so that's the way it's going to work just for now. I'll be creating these videos. I'll be liaising with Rachel herself. We will go over everything that we need to do together, and then we'll be uploading these videos, and anything you need, you can either come see me practical, or you can go see Rachel, obviously, via email, okay? All right, so without that, let's go outside and I'll introduce you to the unit and show you the different sections and the different animals we have. Okay? Okay, so welcome to the small animal care unit. You see quite a long building at the back of the college, either side. And then over on this side here, we have our purpose-built kennels for staff and obviously the public as well, because we do run dog grooming. So we're just going to go inside and show you the first things that you will be greeted with when you come in. And then we'll start identifying the different rooms and why they're broken up into those areas. So we have our reception on the left, which is where the keepers and technicians stay. And then you come down into the corridor, sticking to the left-hand side, following the pandemic rules. Dog grooming on that side, on the left. And then more rooms and sections down on the right. So before we get into everything, I'm going to start going into the different rooms and showing you the animals and showing you how things are split up and why they're that way. Okay, everybody. So the very first classroom that we come to is known as the Esh classroom. It was the first door usually directly in front of me when I was coming into the unit. And this one's really just full of our small furries. Okay, you can see there is some work going on. But inside we have some pens. We have our guinea pigs. Very sorry. We have our guinea pigs. And we also have rabbits. Yeah. Okay. And then we also have some smaller furries as well, such as hamsters, gerbils, fancy mice, and other animals that we use in here. Okay. We have some rats as well. All right. We also have some enrichment down at the bottom for the animals. We have all our equipment up at the top there. And then we have everything we need to complete our tasks, such as equipment, cleaning, food, scales, health check forms, anything like that is also found here at the back as well. All right, health information and identification charts up there as well. So you might be saying, how does this fit into our classification? Well, obviously, I said we have small furries. That's one way that we describe, smaller animals like pets, like guinea pigs, rabbits, and rodents. But also, if you have a look in here, all these animals are mammals, lagomorphs, and rodents. Okay, so they're split up into this as well. So a very easy way to house these animals together. You'd expect to find these species in close proximity together in zoos, in petting areas, shops, pets at home, and that kind of the like. So you can see it's a very easy way to have these animals together, and they all live together very happily, and it just groups them all together, makes it easier to work with. So that's our very first classroom. I'll just show you outside quickly as well. They do have an outdoor area that they can go outside when it's nice and warm. Obviously, with it being winter at the minute, they don't go out. So you can see the welfare of the animals is very high. Nice large pens as well. So that's the first room. Okay, I'm going to take you outside, and I'm now going to turn left, and I'm going to take you into the next room. So remember, this is the S room, and you can see there's the front door. It's the first one you come to. All right, there we are. So you can see there's the S classroom. I'm coming out. I'm sticking to the left-hand side. There's the entranceway. So we're just going out, and I'm coming out, and I'm coming inside into the snake workshop. So I'm just going to come in, and I'm going to just close the door behind me, because with it being a snake workshop, obviously we try and keep as much of the heat inside. And when you come in, immediately you can see classroom of similar size, and it's a similar setup. We have all the equipment on one side of the wall. So everything we need there: dustpan, brushes, bin bags, scales, weights, tongs and scissors, bug feed, everything we need. Okay, larger items over there, sinks and sprayers. And then as you come around, quite a professional setup. Tanks on the walls. Here we have our 3 blue tongue skinks. A large tank getting some renovation here. A bearded dragon who's getting some medication. Okay. With the bearded dragon down here at the bottom, you can see the light set up. And inside we also have all of our tropical invertebrates. Okay, and there's a reason they're in here, and I'll tell you that in a second. Here's our checkered garter snake, Honduran curly-haired tarantula, who we will look at a little bit later as well. Malaysian forest scorpion, beautiful species. We have our corn snakes on the walls there. Another large tank being set up for a new animal. And then we have some more snakes, and again, some more invertebrates. So I've mentioned this is our snake room. Okay, obviously with snakes and reptiles, we need heat, and that's why I closed the door behind us. So they're all in here. We close the door, everything is kept inside, but a lot of animals also need moisture. And this is why we're keeping our invertebrates and our reptiles together. So these are obviously tropical animals. So we have our jungle nymphs from Malaysia area. We have our New Guinea spiny stick insects from Australasia, and you can see they've all been sprayed. High humidity, high heat. Okay, our Honduran curly-haired tarantula, Nicaragua, and Malaysia for our Malaysian forest scorpion. You can see that there. And you can see Buck, he's been sprayed as well. So high humidity, high heat. So these animals require similar living conditions. Okay, not all of them. Obviously, our corn snakes, we don't spray them. They don't need high humidity. But the temperature stays roughly the same, okay, because you have all the heat mats. So you'll often see reptiles and invertebrates housed together in zoos, and that's the main reason why. So tropical invertebrates, of course, they need a high temperature, and then we can go around and we can mist the animals that need the moisture as well, such as the species at the back, any of the reptiles, okay? And it just makes a bit more sense to keep them grouped closely, all right? Have our work table in the middle as well. So as always, we're going to come out, we're going to turn left, we're going to go into our next room, okay? Everybody, so there's the snake workshop. Again, we're coming out, we're sticking to the left-hand side. We're coming down the corridor, and we're coming into our lizard workshop. And again, you can see the theme here, all right? So we have our Uromastics, we have our crested geckos in there, Chinese water dragons, just been misted, Taiwanese beauty snakes, or a rat snake. And again, it's what we were talking about earlier, grouping the animals together in different areas. So we have our reptiles. We do have live feed in here as well. Again, it's very warm, so it's very good for them. The homeostasis keeps them going. We have Mr. T, our green iguana. Again, like I say, we're grouping our reptiles together Okay, because their living needs are very, very, very similar. So ectothermic, they need high temperatures. And then we do also have our mud and our moss turtle pond as well. These will be being changed to a larger pond, which is lovely. And again, similar layout. At the back there, we have all the equipment, everything we need on the back wall. Okay. So again, we're going to follow the same lay. We're going to come out, we're going to turn left, and I'll take you into our next room. All right. So we'll just head down the corridor. Okay. Again, guys, so we're coming down out the lizard workshop, down the corridor, classroom on my right, storeroom on the right, and we're going to be coming down into the aquatics workshop. So in we go. You see, there's a bit of work going on in here. As I mentioned before, there's going to be a new turtle pond. Again, same layout, exactly the same, guys. Equipment on the back wall, everything we need. Okay, and then we have our yellow belly slider and our map turtle. It's our pond, you can see them floating around there. Everything they need. And then on my left-hand side, we have our amphibians, permeable skin, terrestrial life cycle on land. Grouping together, you can see a few empty enclosures. We're getting them prepped for some new animals. All bio enclosures as well. Everything's live, living in there, all the plants. It's equipment at the bottom. Okay, everything we need. Littlefoot, keeled box turtle, quite a rare animal to be working with. So really great things that you can use here. And then the new turtle pond. So that's getting set up, ready. And then on the back wall, we have our aquatics. So our fish and our newts. Sorry, the newts are obviously amphibian. So I'm trying to breathe through my mask. So we have our paddle tail newt. There we go. And then we have our aquatics here, guys. Okay, let the camera get focused. There we go. So we have our cichlid tank. Cichlids are quite specialized animals. We have our Asian communal tank up there with our flying foxes, rasboras, Siamese foxes in there as well, the fish. And then at the bottom we have our African communal tank. Okay, and this has things like our tetras in it. All right, and our rummy nose tetras. That's the difference between, you can just see, very bright, beautiful animals. Okay. And again, fish, cold-blooded, chordata, so they have a notochord, which we'll go over. Okay. Everything there. All right. So we're going to come out, same again, on the left, okay? Always on the left, guys. We're coming down the corridor. On my right, laundry and prep kitchens. You see everything gets washed and cleaned, following high standards. Stop pathogens crossing over. I'm going to turn left. We have our sulcata tortoise enclosure, Mr. Wrinkles, who's out and about for a walk, but you can see everything he needs in here. So he actually does get to walk around the unit. And then we also have other tortoises in other areas, which I think they've been locked and put to bed. Yes, they have. Okay. You get to see them at some point. Coming down the left, is he in the toilet?
He's in the toilet.
I'll show you Mr. Wrinkles, guys.
He's in the boys, which is good.
There we go.
He's near a bit of a mess.
Yeah. Lovely. So still, guys, on the left-hand side, we have a classroom on there, on the left-hand side. You can see we have our distancing in place on the floor, making sure that we follow these guidelines. We have an exit here on my right, just there. There's the classroom, and then we're just going to go into our small mammal housing as well, and I'll show you the small mammals. I've just got to go get the key. Okay, so I've got the key for the small mammal room. It's going to turn on, and as you can see, our small mammals. So we're talking things like rats, dagoos, chinchilla, fancy mice, hamsters, and you'll see at the top as well these circles with colours in. Okay, I think it's quite self-explanatory. Red, quite nippy, technician only or lecturer. Orange, be wary, can be handleable, but has a tendency to either be quite fast. And then we have green as well, which are very handleable, easy to work with. And again, you can see large classroom, cages, everything they need in, equipment that we use, table set out, everything we need on the back wall there. Again, some enclosures for the animals. Get a nice shot of the ones here. There you go. Multi-layered, trying to mimic natural habitats, okay? And in here, obviously we have a lot of rodents, rodentia, such as our rats, hello. Hamsters, we have chipmunks. Okay, so in general, our small mammals, again, housing these all together, similar needs that they would have, similar equipment needed for cleaning. And in every room you might have seen these, our records, we have diaries that we keep for everything. Full cleans, you see it gets filled in. Okay, and then we have our walkthroughs for our animals. So if you are ever stuck on anything, these basic walkthroughs, they do help. And again, you saw a lot of things for the outsides, okay? A lot of things have access to outside. I'm going to take you outside. I'm going to show you the outside enclosures as well. And then that is the tour of the unit. All right, all I've done here, everybody, you can come straight through the small mammal room. And outside, there's the outdoor areas for the rabbits. We have our redneck and Palmer wallabies. There's enrichment often goes over there. Okay, we have some browse, enrichment items, and then over there we have our ferret enclosure. See quickly, there you go. That's a big ferret enclosure, and then we have our hides for the wallabies. The troughs been blown around a little bit. Equipment shed, another hide over there for the wallabies to rest in. Okay, I'll take you round over this side, and I'll show you the other enclosures. We have raccoon enclosure. This is the back end of the unit. You can see over here. Just walk along. We have our raccoon enclosure. Playing with the ice there. See pitter-pattering on the ice. Very tactile animals, raccoons. And then we have two more up there. Plenty of enrichment. Social animals that are living together. And then over here, we also have our raccoon dog. He will be in torpor though, which is a half hibernation. So you probably won't see him. And again, you can see the back of the unit. And that's our animals. That's the unit. You will be working in here. So what we're going to do next is I'm just going to go back into the classroom, introduce the next part of the session, and we'll crack on. Okay? Okay, just very quickly as well, everybody. Camera focus, there we go. Managed to get a key into our Herman tortoise room. You can see large enclosure. Again, layout's the same. And we have our diet sheets on the top there of all the different tortoises. Okay. So that is the Herman tortoise room. Let's head back to the classroom. Just on a side note as well, everybody. Just opposite the tortoise room, we also have a smaller kitchen with equipment in for the animals. Some more diaries, ferret foods, water bottles for rabbits and things like that, okay? Feed sheets up there. So we're going to come back out, and that's it. That's everything. Okay, so that is a very brief tour of the animal unit, guys. You can see everything is split up into the animal's characteristics and their needs, so such as the reptiles and the invertebrates. We also have our amphibians and our fish. We have our mammals, such as our small furries. You see, they're grouped together for ease, all right? Makes it easier for the keepers, and it just makes more sense. They have similar living conditions, so the equipment that we use is very similar, okay? So what we're going to do now is we're going to move on to our classification lesson. So I'm going to take you through into the snake workshop. We're actually going to start looking at the classification system that Rachel has gone over with you, okay? So we're going to go through there now, okay? Okay, everybody. So what we're going to look at now is the classification of animals. But how do we recognize an organism as an animal? We might think that's a very easy question, and it may be easy for more familiar animals like dogs and cats, birds and fish, and many more. But what about groups such as sponges? They were once thought to be plants, believe it or not. So we attribute some general aspects to animals. Now these include multicellularity. So in contrast to bacteria, archaea, and most protists, all animals are multicellular. Animal life cycles feature complex patterns of development from a single cell into a multicellular adult. Okay, and what we mean by that is animals start off very, very simple. They start off as what we know as a zygote, all right? And then they split apart and they start becoming more and more complex with cells dividing into things that actually start having specific functions. Now, if you want a good example of this, have a look at a chicken, its embryo, and how it develops. So that's the first one, multicellularity. Okay, so other than multicellularity, animals also show heterotrophic metabolism. So in contrast to most plants, all animals are heterotrophs. Animals are able to synthesize very few organic molecules from inorganic chemicals. This means that they must take in nutrients for their environment, i.e. they must eat, they must hunt, they must have some food coming into them so that they can digest and create organic molecules that keep them alive. So that is heterotrophic metabolism. So linking with this heterotrophic metabolism, animals also show internal digestion. Most animals use internal processes to break down food into nutrients and organic molecules that help them survive, okay, and keeps them in a homeostasis. That means keeping them alive and perfectly well balanced. So they show internal digestion. Now, I know some animals do exhibit external digestion, but they always have to bring those nutrients back inside. So something like a starfish will regurgitate its stomach out, but it will still suck its stomach back in to have those nutrients inside its body. Same with Drosophila, such as flies. All right, the flies group, they will throw up on their food with enzymes, but they then do suck it back in. So they have internal digestion. Okay. And finally, everybody, we have movement. So in contrast to the majority of plants and fungi, most animals can move. Now, don't get confused. Some animals will show no movement at a very young stage. So something like a jellyfish, when it's a very young nymph, it actually anchors itself to a rock and becomes a polyp, and then it becomes a jellyfish from that. But at later stages, it does develop itself into the jellyfish, and you can clearly see movement on that, okay? So animals must move to find food or to bring food to them. Muscle tissue is actually unique to animals, and many animal body plans are specialized for this movement. So now that we've gone over that, these are just general features that help us recognize what an animal is and how to characterize them. Okay. Okay, so now that we've generalized on the characteristics of what an animal actually is, it's time to start looking at this in a little bit more detail. So animals can be grouped in different manners and in different ways, including what they eat, such as carnivores or herbivores, or how they look, such as the group Panthera, which includes lions, tigers, panthers, cheetahs, and the likes. And this is based on their skulls. They have very similar skull structures, all right? It is this second way of grouping that we are going to pay a lot more attention at today. As discussed in Rachel's theory session, the way in which we group animals together based on shared characteristics is known as the Linnaean system. And this is the hierarchy of groupings that uses binomial nomenclature, which uses a two-naming system. And we begin with the kingdom Animalia, which we just discussed. How do we identify what an animal actually is? We then proceed through stages until we reach our designated species using the hierarchy of taxa. And we're going to go over that now. Okay, so as mentioned before, we start in the Animalia group, and we've already discussed what characterizes an animal. All right, now when we're starting on the Linnaean system, we're going to look at Animalia, which is animals. We then move down into phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. And here you can see we have our Honduran curly-haired tarantula. So we're going to use her as an example of how to classify her. She's called Shelob. Now first we start as an Animalia. We know she's an animal, we know that, okay? So she's part of the Animalia group. We're then moving down into phylum, and she is part of the Arthropoda group. So she's an arthropod. We're then going to move into class, which is Arachnidae, which are arachnids. Moving down the order in the hierarchy, we're now going into Araneae, which is spiders. So that's the order, Araneae, spider. Family, she is part of the Pterophosidae family, and that is the Latin name for tarantulas. Next, we're moving down into the genus, because tarantulas is a large group, and her genus is Tliltocatl, which is the large, burrowing, often colourless tarantula. And finally, we know the genus, we're going to move down into her individual species, which is Tliltocatl albipilosus. And there we have our Latin name for Honduran curly-haired tarantula. So again, Animalia, Arthropoda, Arachnidae, Araneae, Pterophosidae, Tliltocatl, and then finally species, Tliltocatl albipilosus. And there's a good example of the Linnaean system, hierarchy system in action. Okay, so the Honduran curly-haired tarantula was a great example of an invertebrate and how we classify it. But let's move on to a different one. Let's try the Taiwanese beauty snake. So we have her in Animalia, which we know she's an animal. She's in that group. We have phylum, which is Chordata, and this means she's had a notochord at some point in her life cycle. Now, a notochord is a cartilaginous skeletal rod. So a spine, in other words, okay, guys? So she's in the phylum Chordata. Next, we move to her class, which is Reptilia. Order, which is Squamata, which is snakes, lizards, and worm lizards, such as slow worms. So she is obviously a snake. Family, she is in the Colubridae, which is the largest snake family. We then move into her genus, which is Orthriophis, which is the main genre of rat snakes. So she's a Taiwanese beauty rat snake. Sometimes they're just called beauty rat snakes. And finally, we're moving on to her species, which is Orthriophis tentura, which is the Latin name, and her common name is the Taiwanese beauty snake. So Animalia, Chordata, Reptilia, Squamata, Colubridae, Orthriophis, and then finally Orthriophis tentura. Okay, so that is our Taiwanese beauty snake classified. Okay, everybody, I hope that's helped understand the Linnaean classification system a little bit more, and also how we group animals into taxa, and we use the hierarchy system to go through and understand what they are and what group they are part of. All right. Now, remember, the binomial nomenclature naming is two names. So binomial means two, and nomenclature is the naming system. Okay. So you notice that the species is always two names at the end of that. All right. One thing I do want to point out is the species, the examples we've been using, when I get to the very end, the species names are always Latin. Okay, so this is all in Latin, not the common names. Obviously, the common name for the Honduran curly-head tarantula is exactly that, but the Latin name, the species name, was Clotlocatl albopilosus. Okay. So I want you to just remember that, all right? Now, animals do have quite a few common names as well. For instance, the Taiwanese beauty snake is also known as a beauty rat snake. So please keep that in mind if you're Googling for the animal to get a little bit more information, or if you're looking for an animal online and you want to learn a bit more about it. So the Latin names are always the same. The common names can often change. Be aware of that, okay? So what we're going to do now is I'm going to give you an example of one of the animals. All right, here we have it on the unit, and I'm just going to go through it. And I want you to see if you can guess what it is before I get to the end. All right, so let's start off with this. The kingdom is Animalia. The phylum is Chordata. The class is Mammalia. The order is Rodentia. The family is Caviidae. All right, so that's Caviidae. The genus is Cavia. All right. And finally, the species, Cavia porcellus. Okay, let's do that one more time. All right, have a think. See if you know any words, see if you can understand them. All right. Kingdom, Animalia. Phylum, Chordata. Now try and remember what Chordata is. Remember, it's an animal that's had a notochord. Class, Mammalia. Order, Rodentia. Family, Caviidae. Genus, Cavia, and species, Cavia porcellus. All right, have a minute, see if anybody can guess what it is, and then we're going to go through it now. Okay, so, kingdom, Animalia, animal. We've gone through this, we know that, we know the characteristics that make up an animal. Phylum, Chordata, I mentioned it before, this animal's had a notochord at some point in its life, so fair to say it's got a spine, all right? It's had a cartilaginous spine rod, skeletal rod, there we go, sorry, at some point in its life. Okay, so a cartilaginous skeletal rod, a notochord. The class, Mammalia, mammal, we know what makes a mammal. Order, Rodentia, so we know now it's a rodent. Family, Caviidae. Now, if anyone knows this, I'll be very impressed. It is rodents in South America, okay? Genus, Cavia, what we're getting there now, guinea pigs, and finally the species, Cavia porcellus, which is the domestic guinea pig. I'll be very impressed if anybody got that on the first try. Well done. Okay, excellent work. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to learning outcomes, make sure we've met them. So, do we know the 7 groups of classification? Well, let's have a look. Have we gone over them? Kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. There's the 7 systems that we identify animals into. Okay. Next, let me just find my notes. Know how to use the hierarchy of taxa system in the Linnaean classification. Well, we've just done a few examples. We've been through the unit and we have gone through and identified animals. So now you know you start at the very top in the kingdom Animalia and you work all the way down to the individual species. Okay, going through each taxa hierarchy group until you get to the animal that you want. All right. Know the different groups we have at EDC, East Durham College. Well, we did our little introduction at the beginning. We have our reptile rooms with invertebrates in, 2 groups there. We have our snake room as well and our lizard room. Okay, we then had our S room at the start, which had our mammals, our small rodents and our small furries in. And we went through, we've seen the tortoise rooms. We saw Mr. Winkle, Mr. Wrinkle, sorry, that's his name. The sulcata tortoise wandering around. We've seen the small mammals, the small furries room as well at the very bottom. Okay, so we have grouped our animals into our rooms. We've done a basic introduction to that. And finally, know what binomial nomenclature means. Remember, if anyone can remember that, it's the 2 naming system. So when you get to the end of a species, it always has 2 names. For instance, Cavia porcellus. All right, let's have another one. Clylocatl albopilosus, our Honduran curly-head tarantula. Let's have our final one. See if we can find her. Here we go, our Taiwanese beauty snake, Orthriophis taiantura. Okay, and for those of you that don't know, the Latin names are descriptions of the animals. So if you want to have that look, Google, have a look, see if you can get it in a book. They describe what the animal is. Okay, other examples would be Sciurus carolinensis, which is the grey squirrel. Sorry, I can't speak now. And that is, it describes the shadow of the tail because they have a large tail. Okay, Bubo, which is owl, eagle owl. All right, so there's 2 names there, and that's talking about the eyes. So yeah, have a look at that. Do a little bit of your research, okay? For a task, guys, what I would like you to do, all right, is I want you to make yourself aware of the 7 grouping systems. That's very important. It's used widespread today in any animal grouping, okay? And I want you to pick 2 domestic animals and 2 exotic animals. Really simple. All I want you to do is go through the hierarchy system and write down, know what they are. So what you're looking at really here is the hierarchy system itself and using those 7 grouping areas. Try and memorize them, okay? For those of you that struggle, might be a bit like me, I struggle sometimes to remember stuff. There is an easy way, I'm sure Rachel's gone over it with you, and that is Katy Perry comes over for grape soda. Kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. There we go. All right, so Katy Perry comes over for grape soda. See, even I struggle to remember it, okay? That's going to conclude our first lesson. For those of you as well that didn't write down my email at the start, here we go, I'll give you it one more time. That's capital D, capital G, 05269 at eastdurham.ac.uk. If you have any questions about anything, you want help with your theory, please drop me an email. And just on the last note, keep yourself safe in this pandemic. Make sure if you go anywhere, wear a mask, wash your hands. All right. And I look forward to next week and I look forward to meeting you in person finally. Okay. So stay safe and I'll see you soon. Thanks, guys.